Nobody can hold me. Nobody can control me. Hello, everybody. Come on in. Good evening, and welcome. How's everybody doing? Well, come on in. Good evening, Gail. And I just put my trust in God. Nobody can hold me. Nobody can. All right, too much music. Let's turn that music off. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Wendy Ferguson, for sharing. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's the 14th of January, 2021. Oh, my Lord, I haven't been on here so long. It's 2021. How's everybody doing? Come on in. Thank you for sharing, Natasha. Hey, Gail. Natasha Charles, you and Gail Charles related? Must be cousins. Wait, let me go to my page and share. Let me make sure because I'm telling you guys to share and welcome a friend. Let me do the same thing that I'm asking you all to do, because Gail, are you a Natasha Charles' cousin? I see both of you with the same name. So let me share. Let me do the same thing that I'm asking you all to do, because Gail, are you a Natasha? All right. How is everybody doing? Thank you for joining us. Oh, Gail, because I saw that the last names were the same, I assumed that you were both related. Good evening, Berbice. Good evening, Patricia Cornwall. Good evening, everybody. It's Thursday. It's the Thursday, January 14th. We're almost halfway through the month. Thank you for joining us. This is Attorney Diani Winter Funde, and we're here for another great show. Junior will be joining us in a little bit, so you just have me for the time being. It's my first time on since the start of the month, so let me wish everybody a happy new year. Thank you, Patricia, for sharing. Oh, so you're not related, but the Charles is a large family in Grenada. Okay. It's like Jamaica. When you see Browns, we just assume all the Browns are related. If you see a Winter, all the Winters are related. So I want to wish everybody a happy new year. I haven't even gotten a chance to talk to you guys yet about how the Christmas was, or about how, anything. How was your holiday? How was the holidays? Hello, Miss Hermie. Girl, bring your pretty self and come on stage with me, because I know you've been prettying up the place. So I haven't even got a chance to say, how is everybody doing? Merry holidays. How was it after the holidays? How's the new year? I hope everybody stayed safe. Hello, Miss Ingrid. It's great to see me back. Oh, you miss me? Yeah, this is my first time since January. I was on vacation, I guess. I was on vacation with Junior gave me some vacation time. Happy New Year. So there's a lot going on in immigration, but gosh, with politics, I don't even know if we want to talk about politics anymore. I think we've seen enough with politics, and I don't want to talk about politics. I think, Natasha, yes, you and Gail should find out, should inquire as to whether you are related or not. So my show, I was always on Wednesdays with Junior. This year, we're switching it to Thursday evenings. So I'll be on here Thursday evenings at 6, and I'll be on here to answer any questions you have immigration related. Anything to do with immigration, you can ask me on Thursday evenings at 6. So mark your calendar. It's no longer Wednesday fun day. It's Thursday. Still a fun day, but now it will be on Thursdays, right? So today we have a lot going on in immigration. Lots of new things going on in immigration. I made some notes about some of the updates, but I want to talk about the updates as they might affect you. And I always say to people, remember, thank you for sharing, Sylvanie Noel. And guys, let me know where, because it's lonely being by myself. I'm missing Junior now. I want to talk about the Trump impeachment stuff, but we'll wait till Junior gets here because that's juicy. I want to do some of the immigration updates first. Let me know where you are also posting from. Let me know where you're posting from. So I made a list. I have notes. If there's anything specific you want to talk about in immigration, let me know. The first thing I want to talk about is COVID and some of the field centers. A lot of them have reopened. A lot of them have reopened. So if you had an appointment that was canceled due to COVID, by now you should have heard something. You should have heard something if that appointment was canceled due to COVID, because a lot of the centers have reopened. If you're waiting in line for biometrics, so for example, you submitted an application and you're waiting in line for your biometrics appointment, they're sending out a lot of notices to say they're going to reuse those old biometrics prints that you've already taken, especially if you've had your prints taken within the last year or so, then they don't need you to come back in and take your prints. All right, so that's good news for a lot of people. Hello, Miss Kibby, how you doing, love? How are you? How are you? If you have questions, go ahead, post them in the comment. I'll be watching as they come up. And I do have some questions that I'm going to answer for you based on the kind of calls we're getting in the firm. We're getting a lot of calls pertaining to certain specific matters. So I'll review some of those questions here. I won't identify anybody. I won't identify anyone, but at least, I just want to make sure, because sometimes some of you might have the same question. So on the question of biometrics, they are reusing some of those biometrics. So if you're waiting for biometrics, don't worry, they are reusing it. The naturalization quiz, let's talk about that. I know if you're in the audience and you submitted a naturalization application before December 20th, then this doesn't apply to you. All right, so if you submitted it before December 20th, it does not apply to you. Hi, Dale, how are you? Greetings. Let me know where you're joining me from, Dale. So if you submitted that application before December 20, this doesn't apply to you. If your application was submitted after December 20th, keep in mind, and my chair spins, so don't mind me. Keep in mind, you are going to have to take the new civics test. All right. So the new test has 128 questions. Remember the old test, and you've seen me and Junior go back and forth in trying to take that test. The old test, it has 100 questions. You only have to get 10 of those questions correct. Only 10. As it pertains to the new test, there's now 128 questions on the new test. 128, right? So you have to get 12 correct. They've also changed how some of the questions are worded. So you have to pay careful attention. The new test is located on uscis.gov. The new test is on uscis.gov. Good evening, Adi Christopher. Adi Christopher, good evening. Like I said, guys, I'm holding it down until Junior gets here, but I'm reading the comments so I can answer any questions you might have. Good night, Miss Veronica. But so that's the new test, okay? The new test will have 128 questions. The time frame looks, nothing has changed with the time frame. Nothing has changed with the filing fees. Oh, and remember how they were trying to raise the filing fees? Well, the Department of Homeland Security, which is the body that oversees immigration, they've dropped that lawsuit altogether. They're not even suing again regarding the filing fees. So we will see immigration fees at least stable for a little bit, right? So that's positive. The fees will not go up. So as with naturalization, nothing else has changed. The only thing that changed with naturalization is that there's now 128 questions on the new test. So everything else stays the same. Whether you qualify stays the same, the qualification stays the same, and the requirements for you to go in, sit for your interview, take the test, all that's the same. The only things that haven't changed is the test. All right, it looks like we have our first question. And I'm trying to read all the comments in the side. It's from Paula Cato. Good evening, Paula. Can you tell me if the applicant was interviewed, would you have to do over medical knowing that COVID came and 6 months passed? It depends if the applicant is stateside or if the medical has expired at the consular post. So if that medical has expired, I know stateside, it's like, I think 2 years, they've changed to about 2 years. I'm not sure what the consulates are doing about the time frame on medicals, but if you have a medical, and that's a really good question. So you went in for your interview, COVID came, they weren't able to finish processing your paperwork. If they look at that medical, one or two things going to happen, Paula. If they look at the medical, and it is like right about to expire, like a couple days. And I've had this happen with clients at the consular post. They'll call you in and they'll process you really quickly, get your visa to you and have you depart immediately. Before your medical expires, because you cannot come into the United States with an expired medical. Because remember, when you go for that interview, yes, it's really good news about the fees, Kibby. When you go for that interview, they're going to give you this big envelope with all your paperwork when you're coming in for the green card. When you land at a port of entry, whether it's JFK or somewhere else, you're going to hand that envelope to a Custom and Border Patrol officer. They're going to rip that open and they're going to flip through it to make sure everything is correct. You hear people say, "Me get my paperwork." That's what most people refer to, is that they have this, they have the paper. So it's this bulk of paper that you hand to Border Patrol. If there are any documents in there that is expired, they can put you into secondary, or they'll have to correct that. So for that very reason, the consular post is going to make sure that if that medical is expired, you have to do it over. And let me tell you that the doctors outside, they're gonna charge you again for that. They're going to charge you for that medical. In the States, they've extended it where the medical is good for 2 years. So I haven't had a lot of clients that have been affected by COVID. Not many have been affected by COVID. Let me know in the comments if anybody was affected and have to redo their medical. But none of my clients so far that have been rescheduled have had to redo their medical because they have not been affected. So we talked about naturalization. We talked about the biometrics. I want to talk to you about the new travel requirements coming into the United States, because this might affect those people, those family members that you're filing for, that you're bringing in. All international, the CDC entered this, all international travelers coming into the United States will have to present a negative COVID test, right? Negative COVID test. So if you are, Dale, I see your question. If you are If you are coming in if you go out, coming back in, you have to have a negative COVID test within 3 days. I see this being a lot of problems for a lot of people because most countries, Jamaica, cannot provide you with a negative COVID test in 3 days. It's just not going to happen. I can tell you it's not going to happen. They're not going to be able to provide you with a negative COVID test within 3 days. But for international travel, once you depart and you're coming back in, you have to have a negative COVID test in order to travel. I think it's timely because going out to a lot of the countries, Jamaica was already requiring it. Most countries were requiring, a negative COVID test for travel. So why not the US when we have everything breaking out so much? Why not the US? Thank you, Paula. I hope your question was answered. All right, so we're doing all things immigrations. I'm here to answer your questions. I'll be here until the top of the hour. So we have another 40 minutes or so to spend with me. Let me know if you have anything specific you want me to cover. I do have some things on my list. So you let me know what else you'd like me to talk about as I work my way through the list. Dale says, how long can you stay away from the USA as a green card holder? Dale, I want you to write this down. It's either 6 months or 12 months. It depends. 6 months if you intend to apply for naturalization. After 6 months, you have broken continuous residency in that you've been gone for too long. So if you're trying to apply for naturalization, 6 months is going to break it and you have to start over. 2, if you stay 12 months or more, they can find, Custom and Border Patrol can find that you have abandoned your green card. And you'll have to go through the process of trying to convince them otherwise, right? You'll have to say, look, I didn't abandon. I continue to pay my taxes in the United States. I continue to, my house is still here. You know, one of the things you can use is that, wait a minute, it was COVID. I had to leave because of COVID. So there are things that you can put in place. But if you're outside of the US, and especially now that the ports have reopened and you've been gone for 10, 11, and you're inching in because March is around the corner. So March is when everything fell apart. If you are getting close to those 12 months, it is time for you to re-enter the United States, at least to preserve that green card, keeping in mind that if you're doing the 5-year count for citizenship, you would have broken that. You'd have broken the continuous residence requirement, and as such, you won't be able to apply for naturalization. You'd have to start over the count again. I hope that answers your question. So, I did talk about at the top of the hour the biometric prints. We talked about what that looks like as far as them reusing some of the biometrics that they've already collected. All right. One of the things I want to talk about is rescheduling your interview. So what's been happening this week? It has been crazy the last month or the last 2 months since, I want to say going back to October was when the service reopened and they started rescheduling interviews. What I want to talk about is if you have to reschedule your interview. It is if you have to reschedule your interview. For example, you have an adjustment of status interview, you're going in for your green card interview, or you're going in for your naturalization interview. Keep in mind that if something comes up, you test positive for COVID, do not show up to your interview. Please do not show up. You can call the 1-800 number and they will be more than happy to do so. Or if the service reschedules your interview, if the service is the one to cancel your interview, I had this happen to me where the service canceled because there was something going on at the office, right? Don't get frustrated or flustered. I had clients where the service canceled the interview because something is going on at the office. This was at an office here in Florida, and the clients were super, super frustrated. Keep in mind that the service will reschedule you. That is why I always encourage you, if you have moved, change your address immediately so they can reach you. And this goes if you're in deportation or if you're simply just going in for an interview. You don't want to miss any changes. You don't want to miss any you don't want to miss anything, any notices that they're sending to you. I've had it, like, the service has been canceling interviews left and right. I had here at the Tampa field office, something happened and they didn't have enough officers. And so they were just canceling interviews. I tell everybody to create an account online if you have a case, and then you can track that case. You can definitely track that case. And so you're able to kind of see when anything changes. I track my cases so I don't have to show up. Like, most of the time when the service cancels my case, you can see it online. So I know I don't have to show up to an interview because it has been canceled. So those are things to keep in mind for if you need to reschedule, or if you need to miss an appointment, or if the service cancels your appointment. Another thing that I'm seeing is a lot of denial notices. If you have a case that was denied for whatever reason, and I'm getting a lot of calls from people about, I hope I didn't miss a question. Is any of the legislation? Okay, Kibi, I'm going to talk on the other side of this. I'm going to talk about the Biden immigration plan. That's a good point, Kibi. That's a good point. How long after biometrics will you hear from USCIS? I don't know what you mean. Biometrics for work authorization? Biometrics for what? Who's that? Antonia, give us a little bit more in your question, unless you don't want to identify yourself or your case type. Just say you're asking for a friend and explain what you mean. I don't understand your question. So once you... So I was talking about denial notices. I get clients, not clients in my firm, but I do get clients that call me because they've gotten a decision on a notice, meaning their case was denied, and they start panicking. It could be they've gone to an interview for their green card, like they're being interviewed for the green card, and they went to the interview, something went wrong, it didn't go as well as planned, and they are super, super scared. The decision notice comes in and it's a denial. That's one circumstance. I also have where it's a petition to remove the condition. So you have the 2-year green card. You're supposed to submit evidence to show that the green card is still good. You kind of fail on that part and you get the denial notice, right? You get that denial notice. Don't panic. All the notices... The fire alarm is going off in my house. Okay, it stopped. All right. I just want to make sure there was no fire. So all the notices will say you have to leave within 30 days. I don't want to say don't panic, but I want to say you don't have to panic as in, let me start packing my bags and leaving. You don't have to do that. What you want to do is consult with an attorney, because 9 out of 10 times it is something that can be fixed, right? It is something that can definitely be fixed. Another area I'm seeing, and I always talk about this, guys, is the service, and they've been very aggressive about it, going back to your original application. For example, good night, Michelle. For example, you came in on a visitor's visa, and now you're at your green card interview, the officer looks back at that original application, and there are some inconsistencies between the two. I am seeing some denial in that area as well. So please, please, please keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I think Antonia says for green card. Okay, Antonia, for green card, the wait time depends on your service center. The only way to find where they're processing is to go on uscis.gov, take your receipt notice, and look at the bottom left. You're going to see, and I don't have one. I have, but it's going to have people's names on it, so I can't use it. So, Antonia, you look at the bottom left, and you will see the service center, right? And then you go to USCIS. Good evening, Michelle. Good night. Good night. You will see what service center your case is, and you put in USCIS case processing times. You look up your service center, and you look up the I-130 or the I-485, whichever document you have a question on, and it will tell you the processing times for that center. I am saying to people, you can add a couple months to that because of COVID. Most of the service centers, the field offices, they're working from under a backlog. So they're working themselves out from under a backlog. So back in the day, I could say, well, in Tampa, it's like 4 to 6 months, 6 to 8 months. I don't do that anymore because so much, it varies because of what's going on with COVID. So that's what I would recommend you to do as far as finding out what's your case processing time is. So again, if to go back to my original point, if you get a denial notice, make sure that you do something with it. Don't put it under the bed. I have people that call me 2 years later from a denial notice. Don't put it under the bed. Don't move to another state because the denial notice is going to follow you. So, and one of the things when you get a denial notice, you have to be careful because all the documents that are under that application, the work authorization, the driver's license, all of those documents will start to expire and it will not be renewed. It will not be renewed. It is 6:28. Hi D, as it relates to the presidential proclamation bans for H&J, what are your views on Biden overthrowing it? Do you think that's possible? I love that question. Let's take a quick break. Let me see if we can take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Biden and Harris immigration bill. What is it going to look like? What is it going to look like? Nadine, stay put for the other side of the hour because that's what we're going to discuss as far as the H&Js. We're going to discuss that on the other side of this break. Come back in and we'll be right here. We'll be right back.
Hey, I got some good news for you. Looking for a passionate immigration lawyer with experience that spans over 2 decades? Someone trusted that served immigrant families just like yours? Well, look no more. Now you can benefit from her personal and professional experience. Diane Winter Funde. Schedule a consultation now and get assistance with your immigration journey. Specialize in adjustment of status, B1 business visa, B2 visitor's visa, consular processing, deportation defense, naturalization, and more. Give us a call today at 813-815-3529. That's 813-815-3529 or online at winterimmigration.com. Attorney Diane Winter Funde. Law done differently.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. It's almost 6:30, and I said by 6:30, we're going to talk about Biden-Harris immigration bill because I think that's going to be juicy. That's what everybody wants to talk about. Oh, Lord. So unless you were living under a rock, you know that under the Trump administration, there were over 400. Some people say maybe 800, 900, but I'm going to stick with about 400 executive orders restricting immigration. Right? So when we think about the work set out for President-elect Biden and VP Harris, you can't help but wonder which ones are they going to overthrow. I think personally Nadine, is a long way to answer your question. I think personally it's going to be the president. Okay. So I don't think immigration is going to be a priority for this administration because there's COVID, there's unemployment, there's economy, there's like everything is racial divide, political divide. So I think immigration might be number 3 or 4 on the list of important things that will be accomplished. I'm saying all that to say Vice President Biden on the campaign trail promised us a quick immigration bill that he's going to send to Congress the first 100 days. So the first 100 days, there are some things that he will need to fix. So in my mind, in my little mind, I'm not a politician, but Nadine, what I'm thinking in my mind, we'll have to separate things that will take a longer time to change: asylum, refugee, whatever is going on at the border. The southern border. Those are going to be things that cannot be quickly fixed with the reversal of the executive order. So those are things that I don't think we're going to see many changes with that. When it comes to the age categories and the J's, those were done, the restrictions were placed on those by executive order. So I think that would be a quick fix type of area. Remember, Nadine, in March, those things went into place, and then it got pushed to, the president was going to get rid of them on December 31st, and then it got pushed to March. Essentially, it got pushed into the next administration. So, and he blamed the H's and the J's and some of those restrictions that we've seen on how bad the economy was, and that he essentially had to, he was doing it to save jobs for the economy. That's what he said. I don't know if it's true or not, because when you think about the categories of visa he placed the restriction on, those individuals are not competing with Americans for jobs. But that's what he said. So I think some of those categories, some of the restrictions, some of the travel bans, I think those will be easily fixed. Those are things that I'm calling quick fixes. Those can be like, okay, let's lift the travel bans. Let's pull back on some of the restrictions that we have seen so that we can have, a little bit more freedom of movement across the borders. And Nadine, I would love to hear your point, because now with COVID, you have to have a negative COVID to enter the country. So I'm thinking about all these countries have to put mechanisms into place to do rapid testing. Because if somebody gets a visa, or if somebody gets their green card, or somebody has to come here to work, or H-2B workers, or J's, if they have to enter, Nadine, they're going to need a negative COVID test in 3 days. I can tell you, I went to Jamaica, and when I landed as a business traveler, and they told me I had to take a test, and they said, oh, you'll get something back in 2 or 3 days. It's been months. I still haven't heard with that test. I haven't heard anything. So I don't know, Nadine, I'll see what you think, but I don't think it's going to be where it's going to, I think there's going to be some other things to work out. I think there's going to be some things that the countries will have to work out, but I think that's one area that it's possible that it can be a quick fix, because most of that was done on, oh, sorry, Nad. Sorry, maybe you can't talk though. We can talk off the air. But Nadine, but just to say, I think that's one area that can be a quick fix. But remember still, Biden and Harris still have an economy to inherit, a propped up economy. So I don't know if they're going to wide open the gates for foreign workers. I don't know. I think we might see some action with some of the travel bans on the Muslim majority countries, Nigeria, some of those categories that, the president just fling into one. I think we might see some changes there, but I don't know if it's going to be just this carte blanche of opening the gates for everybody to come back in. All right, we're going to keep talking about the Biden-Harris immigration bill. Guys, if you have something on your wish list for the Biden-Harris immigration bill, put it in the side. Like if you had an immigration wish list. I did this on I'm on Clubhouse. I don't know who else is on Clubhouse. If you're here and you're on Clubhouse, follow me. I'm on Clubhouse and I do 3 shows a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 11. And yes, sis, we'll talk after. And one of the things I had my audience talk about was having a Biden-Harris wish list of an immigration bill. What would some of those things look like? And out of that, we know a lot of people want to see something done at the border, at the Mexico-US border. A lot of people want to see that. They want to see something done. People want the restrictions that were placed. I'm going to call them the COVID restrictions, because those are the restrictions we saw starting last March, where the president started restricting the movement or the granting of certain new visas for certain categories of people. So that was on the wish list. Let me know, guys, what's on your wish list for a Biden-Harris immigration bill. Let's know what's on your wish list. All right, we have a question. Is it okay to apply for a US visa? Once your consular post is open, you can first of all, anybody can apply for a visa at any time, right? The burden will always be the same, and it's a little bit higher now because of COVID. So you can still, some consular post, let me see who asked me that question. Nixon Joel. All right. So some consular posts are not processing non-emergency type travel. So a lot of them are restricting whatever they're doing to first clear out the backlog, and they're processing emergency travel only. So if you have an emergency and you have to come into the United States, maybe medical emergency, business, or something of that sort, some people, I'm sorry, I'm reading and talking, forgive me. Oh yeah, January 26th. Thank you for answering that, Michelle, because I didn't know the date. I knew it was coming up, but I know you have to get tested. So you can apply for a US visa at any given time, right? So you have to make sure you can meet the burden to show that you have enough ties. And when we say ties, Nixon, we mean you have to convince the officer that you are coming back. And now on top of that, so before COVID, we talked about the B1, B2, and what you really have to convince the officer about. And essentially you had to show like you had a job, you have bank statements, you have a car, you have a house, you have all these proof to show that my trip is brief. It's for this purpose, business or pleasure, maybe, to go to a conference or something of that sort, and that you have all intentions of coming back, right? You have to, that's what the B1, B2 is, applying for that visa. However, now you also have to show during COVID, like, where are you going? Where are you going? It's a pandemic. So you'll have to show during the pandemic, I want to go visit my aunt in New York, or I want to go to Disney World. First of all, Disney World half locked down. So the officer go on to know, where are you going during a pandemic? So that's another layer of question that you will need to answer when you're applying for a visa. Similar to coming into the United States, if you have a visa, you can come. You can come. But when you're at the border, you're coming for 6 months. What are you coming here to do for 6 months? What are you coming here to do for 3 months? So you have to have a reason or an answer. It's not like they're saying the border is closed, or it's not like they're saying you can't come or your visa is canceled. They're just going to have some questions for you to see what is your purpose of travel. I've been traveling during the pandemic, and each time I come back, the officers are always curious, super curious about, where did you go? Why? Like, they're trying to figure out, girl, it's a pandemic. Where are you going? So I'm a citizen, and I sometimes I placate them by answering, but sometimes I'm like, quite frankly, it's none of your business. I'm a citizen. But if you're visiting, you're knocking at the door to enter. If you have a green card or a visitor's visa, you are knocking at the door for them to let you in. And if you cannot answer those questions, it could be problematic. He doesn't want immigrants here, but immigrants make up the bulk of this country. That is so true. That is so true. Well said, Selena. He does not want us here. So it seems the other question, getting tested to enter back in the US, has it already started? It's January 26th. I didn't look at the date, but I know the CDC announced it, that you have to get tested to come back into the country, all international travelers. I'm going to see how that's going to work out. Maybe that will restrict me from traveling, because how am I going to get tested if I go somewhere for 3 days? That means as I land, I'd have to get tested before I come back. Yeah, as I land, I'd have to get tested before I come back. Interesting. So we're talking about the Biden-Harris immigration bill. Any questions for me? I just don't want to keep talking about all things immigration related. And if you're on here, I've launched the Immigration Law Academy. It's on YouTube. Go there and because I'm always talking. I'll try to keep you up to date. I know I'm on the show once a week, but I think maybe 2-3 times a week, I'll be posting lots of information about immigration. So go on there and just, support the page. The information is of no cost. Like, I'm just on there running my mouth. So make sure you go on there and support. So we're still talking about the Biden-Harris immigration bill. If there's anything you want to see, anything special you want to see in that bill, remember when President-elect Biden was running for office, he talked a lot about some things that he would do for immigrants. Oh, on my show, I was talking about Clubhouse. On that show, one of the wish was that the U.S. Embassy in Cuba be reopened. So that's something that's on the wish list. And it's kind of neat talking to people from different cultures, because everybody wish list is a little bit different. Everybody have like a different kind of wish for their wish list. So like in Cuba, they want to see their consulate open, because I don't know if you know this, but people in Cuba, they have to go to Guyana to be processed. There's no consulate in Cuba. And there's a couple other countries too that don't have a United States embassy, but Cuba, they have to go to Guyana, which is, from what I hear, it's a super expensive round trip. And then you have to book a hotel, then you have to stay in the hotel. So those are some things that in Cuba they are going through. So when we're talking about the Biden-Harris immigration wish list, one, we're hoping for the U.S. Embassy in Cuba to be open. We're hoping for something to be done with the people at the border, the southern border. We're hoping for some of those bans to be lifted. We're looking for numbers for refugee status. We want that to go back up to what it typically is. So those are some changes that we're looking for as it pertains to immigration. Patrice Reed says, I am married, want to do my citizenship. My husband and I are separated. We have 4 kids. Is it okay to divorce him before doing my citizenship or wait until after? Patrice, the decision to divorce or not is up to you. Let me tell you what the requirements for citizenship are. Let me take a sip of water. Guys, I've been talking all day. So when I was younger, I used to talk a lot. You couldn't get me to shut up. And now, Lord jeez, my throat stays dry. My throat stays dry. Patrice, requirements for naturalization. You have the 3-year rule or the 5-year rule. 3 years if you're still married to the person that, 3 years if you're still married to the person that you got the green card through. For example, if your husband filed for you, he's a citizen and you got your green card, then within 3 years, you can apply for that green card. So you say no, you haven't told me how long you've been married. If you are divorced, then you have to wait the 5 years. You have to wait 5 years. So marriage and naturalization, The only thing that comes down to it is a 3 or 5 year rule. And Patrice, I do have a course on that. So if it's something you're interested in, it's in the academy. Let me know, message me, or go to my YouTube page, go to my Facebook page, send me a message, and I'll send you that information for naturalization. But just so you know, Patrice, the divorce have nothing to do with it. What it comes down to is either 3 years or 5 years. 3 years if you can answer. 3 years if you're still married. 5 years if you are not married. Nadine would love to see the U.S. Embassy here revamped. I take it you're talking Canada, Nadine? I think Jamaica, I don't know, me like Jamaica, and me like the consulate of Kingston, you know. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, but I like the U.S. consulate in Kingston. I really like that consulate. They're super responsive, more than most. They've allowed me to go in with clients, more than most. I don't know about COVID, but that's what's happening. Jacinta James says, Cillian Biaz, George, do you know why they added more questions to this? I'm not sure why. I know the test hasn't been changed in a long time. It's been 100 questions forever, and I've been here since 1996. And it was 100 questions when I naturalized in 2002. So maybe just time. Maybe it's just time. Good evening. I think it's just time. Good evening. Are you saying that a person who holds a permanent resident card can encounter problems returning to the United States? Absolutely, Jacinta, that's what I'm saying. Each time you leave, if you're not a United States citizen, each time you leave the US and you're coming back, you can be denied entry. The green card gives you a lot of rights. It does not give you full rights. I'm a United States citizen. They cannot deny me entry. If a country is deporting me, they can deport me back to America because I'm a citizen. If you have a green card, you can be denied entry. What do I mean? They might physically let you in, but they can place you in removal, or they can deny you entry because you're only a lawful permanent resident. For example, you committed a crime back in 1990 something and you still have your green card and you decide to travel. When you're coming back in, they still gonna run your prints. They run everybody prints. They're gonna run your print, and if you commit a certain crime or you've been gone for too long, that I talked about at the top of the hour, they can say, we're going to deny you entry and place you into secondary screening or give you a notice to go to court or something of that sort. So with a green card, you're still knocking at the door of the we call it knocking at the door, meaning when you come, you're just asking, please let me in. It's not like you can just walk in. Like citizens, when they're coming home, you're coming home. It's like me going to Jamaica. When I'm going home, I'm going home. They cannot deny me entry because I'm a Jamaican national, right? If somebody's coming from, like I went to Aruba a couple of weeks ago, they don't have to admit me. They could say no. Me not belong there. I don't have an Aruban birth certificate. I don't have an Aruban passport. So they literally could say no and not admit me. Say similar with a green card, and I think that's what a lot of people forget. They have this stupid green card walking around in their pockets for decades for no reason and not realizing just a little slip like that, and you can be denied entry. You can be denied entry. Nadine, yeah, I like the Miss. Was it Gail? Well, I hope I answered that question about the green card. Since 2014, we're still married but separated. I think you're eligible to apply for naturalization, barring anything else. Barring anything else. Give us a buzz and we can help you. I do have a naturalization course. I call it the Do-It-Yourself Naturalization Kit. Message me or reach out to me and I can I can send it to you. It's a do-it-yourself kit. Way, way, way less expensive, especially if you have like no arrest or anything of that sort, then you definitely can do it yourself for way less than it is to hire an attorney, which I always encourage people to use an attorney. But this kit was developed based on everything that I've used in my practice. You're getting the cover letter, you're getting everything that you use. Yes, Nadine, the green card is a privilege. It's not a right. They give it to you and they'll take it away. Whereas with naturalization, they have to go through this process that we call denaturalization, which takes forever and a day. It's a court process. So if you've done something like you've committed treason, or they find out that you worked in like a Nazi camp, but you lied about it on your application, yes, they can begin the denaturalization process against you. But if you have a green card, they're not have to do all of that. They can simply place you in removal. They can simply place you in what we call deportation and start those proceedings against you. You're welcome, love. You're welcome, Nadine. I hope you're staying safe. Oh, Aruba. I loved Aruba. Natasha, I love Aruba, but I can't manage the iguana them. Too much iguana. The iguana them, everywhere, and little lizard them run on the ground. That was a tough one for me because I can't do lizards. I really can't do lizards. So what else, guys, do you want to see on the Biden-Harris immigration bill? What else? So did you see VP-elect Harris's, she teased up an immigration bill. She talked about shortening the time that you have to make your reservation. Yeah, to become a citizen, excuse me, shortening the amount of time that you have to wait to become a US citizen. That's what she said. She's like, that's one of the things she talked about. And she also talked about DACA, like she wants to have green card for all. Can you imagine 2 million people? She wants to have DACA for all green card holders. Yep. So if you're a DACA recipient, I would pay attention to that and any changes that might come, because that's what she's talking about. She says potentially green card for all DACA recipients. So that's a big one. I hope for that one too, because, you know, with our DACA or dreamers or children that were brought here through no fault of their own, and they're just living here without status forever and ever. They're just living here. That's tough. And so that's one of the things VP-elect raised was status for DACA recipients, getting a green card as opposed to renewing every 2 years. And they're now accepting new applications. Hey, Queen. What's up, Queen? So that's what's going on in the world of immigration. I know it's a lot to digest, but I always say, make sure, consult with an immigration lawyer, open your mail, change your address every time you move. If you have a green card, if you're not a citizen and all you have is a green card, every time you move, you are supposed to change your address with the service in case they need to mail you or send you anything. Every time you move, you're supposed to change your address with the service. Just remember that, whether you have a pending application or not. Monique Peters said her wish list is more definitive permanent plan for dreamers. Absolutely. I think that should be at the top of the list. Abolishment of 287G. So for those of you that are not familiar with, I love that you brought that up. So 287G is essentially turning the police department into an extension arm of ICE. So for example, if you get arrested for something, that police department, complete abolishment of ICE, me and you both. Monique Peters, me love you. Me love you, Monique Peters. Yes. Full abolish, because ICE is just like, I don't know who they are. And mind you, let me make a disclaimer. I have had the opportunity to work with a lot of ICE officers, and they're decent people. But some of them are not as decent. Some of them. So 287G means if you get picked up by the police department, it's a part of the statute that applies to why they call it 287G, because it's the statute. So 287G, on the 287G, a lot of police departments have signed these agreements with ICE, right? Meaning if we pick somebody up and we find out they're undocumented, and we now use the word illegal no more, nobody not illegal, we're using the word undocumented. If they find the individual is undocumented, what they do is they're going to hold you until ICE gets there. Until ICE gets there. So I would love to see Monique Peters Monroe. I would love to see the abolishment of 287G vis-a-vis ICE. Remember, ICE came out of 9/11. Prior to 9/11, there was no ICE. The whole big umbrella of immigration was born after the terrorist attacks in 2001. So before that, we had INS. Where are my INS people? If you're an INS baby, click INS in the thing, because all of us were INS baby. We came through the Immigration and Naturalization Service that was torn apart in about, I think, 2005 or thereabouts. And then we saw this big arm, Department of Homeland Security, where they put Custom and Border Patrol, and they put ICE, and they put USCIS, and they put BIA. They put a whole slew of agencies under this big umbrella. So I like what you have on your wish list, Monique. I love what you have. Gail said that used to happen in Canada, but not anymore. Good. It shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening, because now these officers have taken hold of that, taken hold of it, and they're being super aggressive with this too. Especially in like North Carolina. There's parts in North Carolina where it's really bad. Really, really, really bad. Some states have some counties, because it's county-wise. So each county can choose. Each county can choose. When a worker goes AWOL and are reported to immigration by the employer, how does that affect them when they're filing for their green card? First of all, that employer is a boohoo. Like, there's no reason to report somebody to immigration. You hire somebody else. I think that's messed up. Any employer who does that, and let me just say, I'm an immigration law attorney. I represent immigrants. And if an employer represents somebody because they came on a work visa and they decide, you know what, me meet somebody, me go move, go to Manhattan, leave the people alone. I don't think, Nadine, that's anything to report anybody to immigration for. You're not an enforcer. That's what I talk about, people taking on the responsibility of immigration officer as their day job. Like, it depends. So to answer your question, Nadine, because now I'm getting worked up with that, I would hate for an employer to report somebody. If Nadine, Dayan said INS long time now. Dayan said 1986. Yeah, that was INS. We all came through INS with the paper forms. Remember them there? Paper. We have paper now, but they might go online. So Nadine, if they report them, it depends what they report them for. If all they say is, oh, the person leave, I don't think ICE is not going to get up off their chair to come track down one person. If they write something really negative about this person's immigration status, like about their intent, like the moment they came, all they talked about was running off and finding a husband. A lot of times what immigration does, they take that letter and just stick it in the person's file. Because remember, everybody has an immigration file. Once you're not a citizen and you weren't born here, even if you're a citizen, you'll have an immigration file. So long as you were born somewhere else and you come into the United States, you do have an immigration file. So what ICE will do, what the agency will do is, Nadine, they might just take that letter and just put it in somebody's file. That is why sometimes as an attorney, when I sit at an interview and I hear the officer start asking certain questions, I have to stop the interview to find out where is this coming from. Because I see spouses do it all the time. Husband and wife will write stuff and say, oh, she only married me for the green card. And so you'll go in for your naturalization and the officer is asking you about this damning letter that is in your file. So that's where I think it can hurt the person. But immigration, I don't think they're going to get up off their chairs. They don't have enough resources to do that. When people tell them, "I go call immigration lawyer," they don't have the resources to go after every lead or every angry husband or wife or every angry employer. What I do say to employers, if your employee goes AWOL, hire somebody else. It's that simple. Hire somebody else. Nadine, that's what I recommend. Can you speak on the new requirements on showing financial stability for applying for a spouse or relatives? There are no new requirements on financial stability. What they have begun to do is enforce the financial requirements. They're not new. As long as we have been around, I-864 has been a part of an immigration application. That nothing has changed. What they're doing, Monique, is enforcing it through the public charge. The public charge doctrine is not new. But remember, we used to submit you never hear people always talk about the affidavit of support, the affidavit of support. What President Trump has said, because remember, prior to the public charge doctrine, anybody would just sign the affidavit of support, whether they're an uncle, a cousin, a friend. Sign this for me, sign this for me. What the president has said is he's going to start to enforce these as contractual agreements, right? But nothing is changed nothing has changed, Monique, for the financial stability. Because of COVID, the president has started to talk about, will you become a public charge? What is the likelihood that if you come into this country, you're going to become a public charge? That is out of the pandemic, and that is out of immigration restriction by the president, right? But what I try to tell people, the affidavit of support was always a part of how they looked at whether you're able to come into the United States as well. We always looked at it. It's just that at the interview stage or in the public eye, it wasn't something that was always discussed. We didn't sit down and talk about public charge, but we were always talking about affidavit of support. The intellectual contribution was by the president. He was just restricting immigration from the Black and brown countries. That's just all it is. The Black and brown countries. Whenever he talks or writes, the rhetoric is to affect Black and brown countries intellectually contribute. That's just him restricting immigration. And he could do so because we're in the middle of a pandemic. All right, guys. For H-2B, Nadine, no, because they're coming to work. They're coming to work. I think at the visa stage, I have to show maybe their travel like ticket and stuff like that, how they're gonna, I think, to get their tickets to come in. But for the most part, I think with H-2B, some of those employment categories, the whole purpose is they're coming to work. One of the things he changed, which, well, I don't need to talk about that because it went back to normal, was he had changed the prevailing wages for the H-1Bs. But that went back to normal. It didn't fly. Monique, yeah, that's just the president's rhetoric in restricting travel, restricting immigration. It is 7:04 people on a Thursday. All right, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I had a blast. I will be back here in 1 week, Thursday, 1 week from today, Thursday. Remember to go over to YouTube now. While you're on here listening, go to YouTube, like and subscribe to my channel, Winter Immigration Law Academy. I'm going to have lots of good stuff on it. If you're looking to get naturalized, I also have a do-it-yourself naturalization kit. You can reach me at www.winterimmigration.com, www.winterimmigration.com. And you can also reach me at 813-815-3529, 813-815-3529. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's 7:05 p.m. on a Thursday, and I am going to say, walk good.
Hey, I got some good news for you. Looking for a passionate immigration lawyer with experience that spans over 2 decades? Someone trusted that served immigrant families just like yours? Well, look no more. Now you can benefit from her personal and professional experience. Diane Winter Funding. Schedule a consultation now and get assistance with your immigration journey. Specialize in adjustment of status, B1 business visa, B2 visitors visa, consular processing, deportation defense, naturalization, and more. Give us a call today at 813-815-3529. That's 813-815-3529 or online at winterimmigration.com. Attorney Diane.
You're constantly thinking of food, but sometimes you just don't want to cook or want something a little different. That's when you call Tasties, preparing meals that you really love. Tasties, our mouth-watering food, would have you coming back every day. But hold on, we only prepare meals Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for now. Call early because we have a lot to serve and we would love to serve you. Tasties, we prepare the meals you love to eat. From macaroni pie to baked chicken, provision dumpling and saltfish, stewed chicken, curry chicken, baked chicken, rice and peas, salads, and more. Please call for the daily menu. Call 425-0624 or 403-0411. You can pick up your meals from us or we deliver to you. Tasties, food that's delicious.